Benjamin Netanyahu Fast Facts. Here's a look at the life of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Personal birth date: October 21, 1949. Birthplace: Tel Aviv, Israel. Birth name: Binyamin Netanyahu. Father: Benzion Netanyahu, a historian. Mother: Cela, Segal, Netanyahu. Marriages: Sara Ben-Artzi, 1991. Present: Fleur Cates, 1981-1988. Divorced: Miriam Haran, divorced. Children: with Sara Ben-Artzi. Avner and Yair, with Miriam Haran. No education. Attended Harvard University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, B.S. 1974, and M.S. 1976. Military service: Israeli Defense Forces, 1967-1972. Captain. Religion: Jewish. Other facts: leader of the right-wing Likud Party. Is known throughout Israel by the nickname Bibi. Spent his teenage years in the United States, went to high school in Philadelphia. First Israeli prime minister to be born after the state was founded in 1948. Netanyahu's brother, Yonatan, was killed in action in 1976 while leading a mission to rescue Israeli passengers on a hijacked Air France plane. Netanyahu organized 2 international conferences on ways to combat terrorism, one in 1979 and another in 1984. Timeline: 1967 to 1972. Serves in the Israeli Defense Forces in the elite commando unit Sayeret Matkal. 1976 to 1978. Works in the United States for Boston Consulting Group. 1982 to 1984. Deputy Chief of Mission at the Israeli Embassy in Washington. 1984 to 1988. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. 1988. Returns to Israel and wins a seat in the Knesset, Israel's parliament. 1988 to 1991. Deputy Foreign Minister under Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir. 1991 to 1992. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's office. 1993 is elected the Likud Party chairman. June 1996 – July 1999. Prime Minister of Israel. September 1996 has first meeting with Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. October 23, 1998. Arafat and Netanyahu signed the Y Memorandum, an interim accord, exchanging land and power to secure Israel from political violence. 1999. Following his defeat in the elections, Netanyahu resigns from the Knesset. 1999 to 2002. Works in the private sector. 2002 to 2003, Minister of Foreign Affairs. 2003 to 2005, Minister of Finance. August 2005. Resigns in protest over the plan to withdraw Jewish settlers from Gaza and return their land to Palestinian control. December 2005 is elected leader of the Likud Party. August 2007 is re-elected. February 10, 2009. After the election, the results remain unclear as to who will become prime minister, Netanyahu or chief rival Tzipi Livni. Both make claims to the position. February 19, 2009 wins backing from the Israeli parliament. February 20, 2009 becomes the prime minister designate and begins working on the formation of the new government. March 31, 2009 is sworn in as prime minister. September 1 to 2, 2010, attends a meeting in Washington hosted by U.S. President Barack Obama to possibly restart peace talks between Israeli and Palestinian leaders. Other leaders in attendance are Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, King Abdullah II of Jordan and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. September 14, 2010 meets with Abbas in Egypt for second round of peace talks in 2 weeks. Also in attendance are U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and U.S. Special Envoy to Middle East George Mitchell. May 4, 2011, denounces the reconciliation agreement signed by Fatah and Hamas in Egypt and calls on Abbas to immediately cancel the reconciliation deal with Hamas and choose the path of peace with Israel. May 24, 2011, addresses a joint meeting of the U.S. Congress. Netanyahu says that he is prepared to make painful compromises for a peace settlement with the Palestinians. However, he repeats that Israel will not accept a return to its pre-1967 boundaries. June 13, 2012, Israel releases a 153-page report criticizing Netanyahu's handling of a raid against a Turkish aid flotilla to Gaza in 2010, where 9 Turkish activists were killed. September 27, 2012. In an address to the United Nations, Netanyahu urges the General Assembly to draw a clear red line to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. October 9, 2012 calls for an early election after failing to agree on a budget with his coalition partners. October 9, 2012 Israel's parliament votes to dissolve itself and schedules an election for January 22, 2013. January 22, 2013, according to media exit polling, Netanyahu's Likud Party wins 31 Knesset seats in the election. The Yesh Atid Party, a new centrist movement, comes in a surprising second place with at least 19 seats. March 24, 2013 apologizes to Turkey for the 2010 raid on the Gaza-bound flotilla Mavi Marmara. October 1, 2013 in a speech at the UN General Assembly, Netanyahu accuses Iranian President Hassan Rouhani of seeking to obtain a nuclear weapon and describes him as a wolf in sheep's clothing, a wolf who thinks he can pull the wool over the eyes of the international community. November 24, 2013 tells reporters that the Iran nuclear deal that world leaders reached with Tehran is a historic mistake. April 27, 2014 tells CNN that Israel cannot negotiate with the government of Abbas while it is backed by Hamas, saying, "I call on President Abbas. Tear up your pact with Hamas." September 29, 2014 warns delegates at the UN General Assembly not to overlook threats posed by Iran and Hamas in their zeal to defeat ISIS. December 2, 2014 calls for the dismissal of 2 members of his coalition cabinet and announces he will call for the dissolution of the nation's legislature. March 3, 2015, addresses a joint session of the U.S. Congress. March 18, 2015 is re-elected Prime Minister. October 1, 2015, Netanyahu says he is prepared to immediately resume direct peace talks with the Palestinian Authority without any preconditions whatsoever. His remarks come a day after the leader of the Palestinian Authority said Palestinians are stepping away from the Oslo Accords. October 20, 2015 during a speech at the 37th Zionist Congress, Netanyahu says that Adolf Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews but was urged to do so by Haj Amin al-Husseini, a former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. January 2, 2017 Israeli authorities question Netanyahu for 3 hours. He is suspected of corruption related to benefits he allegedly received from businessmen. The Prime Minister denies the allegations, suggesting that there are political motives for the probe. In a Facebook post, Netanyahu lists the charges and says that investigators will find nothing to support each allegation. August 4, 2017, it is announced that Ari Haro, Netanyahu's former chief of staff, has agreed to testify against him in the graft probe. February 13, 2018 Israeli police announced there is sufficient evidence to indict Netanyahu on criminal charges in 2 corruption cases. According to a police statement, authorities found evidence of accepting bribes, fraud, and breach of trust. Netanyahu says the allegations against him will be dismissed. March 2, 2018, Netanyahu is questioned for 5 hours in case 4000, which alleges he gave regulatory benefits worth up to 1 billion shekels, approximately $280 million, to his friend in exchange for favorable media coverage. This is the 3rd case in which he has been named as a suspect. Police simultaneously interrogate Netanyahu's wife, Sara, at a different location. Netanyahu proclaims his and his wife's innocence in a Facebook video shortly after the interrogations conclude. March 27 to 28, 2018 is hospitalized with a mild viral illness of the upper respiratory system and released after a series of exams. April 30, 2018, during an address from the Israel Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu says Israel has evidence Iranian officials were lying when they said Iran wasn't pursuing nuclear weapons and that the Islamic Republic is keeping an atomic archive at a secret compound. The following day, IAEA spokesman Frederick Dahl tells CNN that there are no credible indications of activities in Iran relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device after 2009. September 27, 2018 speaking to the UN General Assembly, Netanyahu claims that Iran has a second Sekret nuclear facility and warehouse in Tehran. He offered no proof of the claim or details. February 28, 2019 Israel's Attorney General announces that Netanyahu will be indicted on bribery and breach of trust charges stemming from 3 investigations, pending a hearing. The hearing is not expected to take place before April's election, in which Netanyahu will seek a 5th term in office. Netanyahu responds by saying that the left has exerted extraordinary pressure on the Attorney General in an attempt to influence the elections and to crown a left-wing government. April 9, 2019 is elected to his 5th term as Prime Minister. May 29, 2019 Netanyahu fails to form a coalition government from the parties elected on April 9, the first time in Israel's history that a general election has failed to produce a government. New elections are scheduled for September 17, 2019. July 20, 2019, Netanyahu becomes the longest-serving leader in Israel's history, surpassing the country's first Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion's 48.75 days in office. September 17, 2019 exit polls for the repeat general election failed to give either Netanyahu or former military chief Benny Gantz a majority in the new parliament. October 2, 2019 pre-indictment hearings begin in 3 criminal investigations against Netanyahu. October 21, 2019 Netanyahu fails to form a coalition government for the second time. 2 days later, Gantz is given an official mandate by President Reuven Rivlin to try and form a ruling government coalition. November 21, 2019 Israel's Attorney General unveils charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust against Netanyahu in 3 separate corruption investigations. December 26, 2019 retains leadership of political party Likud after a resounding victory over his challenger Gideon Sa'ar. January 28, 2020, Netanyahu is formally indicted on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust, shortly after withdrawing his request for parliamentary immunity, a request he was almost certain to lose. March 2, 2020, the Likud Party wins 59 seats in the general election, but is 3 seats short to win a majority. April 20, 2020 Netanyahu and Gantz announced their agreement on the formation of a national emergency government, according to a joint statement. Click subscribe to receive the latest news.